Good afternoon. I'm here at the Petroleum Museum in Midland, Texas, and this is our National Central Power Unit. It's a very large piece of equipment, and it was developed because as the drilling rigs evolved to where they were portable and they could be moved, they would drill several wells in a certain proximity to where after the wells were all drilled, the oil company had to figure out the best way and the most efficient way to pump these wells. So this type of equipment was developed because it has the capability from one central place to power several remote oil wells by the use of pump jacks. Now, there were no electrical grids in the early oil fields of the 1930s. In fact, up until 1936, when Franklin Delano Roosevelt ran for presidential office on a ticket called the New Deal, that rural electrification was an act, a policy that he was going to enforce. But all up until then, in these West Texas oil fields, there was no electricity. So they would install a unit something like this. Every morning, a man would have to show up out here, start a fire in a boiler, create steam, and steam would power this engine. That guy is called the pumper, and he had a helper that was called the oiler, and he would walk every rod line every day and oil these guides for these rod lines that would operate these pump jacks. Now, this piece of equipment actually worked for years and years in Pecos County, about 7 miles south of Imperial, Texas. And in the late 60s, early 70s, it was donated to the Petroleum Museum to be installed. And I'm going to start it up so that you'll have a feel of how a central power unit can work several oil wells. Now, I want you to notice that this unit is operating a pump jack probably about 50 to 60 yards away from me. I want you to notice that inside this wheel is a floating disc that has rod lines tied to it, and as it is floating, it is making these rod lines go forward and backward and forward and backward that will operate these rod lines to the pump jacks. I have another pump jack over there. It's red. You can see it go up and down. And I have another pump jack over here. Okay. Now, this piece of equipment, when it was in its real operation in the oil fields in the 30s and 40s, it ran 12 oil wells, ranging in different depths, anywhere from 800 feet to 1,500 to 1,600 feet. They weren't real deep wells because the pay zone in that particular area was only about 800 to 1,400 feet deep. This piece of equipment was used a lot throughout the United States, especially in the rural oil field areas that had no electricity. Once they got an electrical grid out into the oil field, then the industry moved forward and created pumping units that have their own power system built onto it. And we'll show y'all those type of units a little later.